Hi, this is Marlene with Miami Ghost Chronicles, and I want to welcome you to another episode of Stories of the Supernatural. Wherever you find us, whether it's a video or podcast on your favorite platform, please like and subscribe to us so that you can get notification of when a new show is released. You can also find us on major social media platforms. If you go to miamighostchronicles.com, you can find links to the videos or MP3 files, which you can download and enjoy without commercial interruptions. If you're into classic horror, ghost, and adventure stories, I narrate Nightshade Diary, and you can find links at nightshadediary.com. If scary stories are your bag, and listening to encounters with cryptids, ghosts, dogman, and other weird creatures sends a shiver up your spine, then go to supernaturalstorytime.com for links to our weekly podcasts. Noteworthy news about the paranormal world, true crime, conspiracy stories, and anything that is just plain weird can be found at eerie.news or visit the Stranger Than Fiction Stories tab at miamighostchronicles.com. Please subscribe to my newsletter on Substack. Just go to mppellicer.com for a link. I want to thank you for being part of my audience, and I think you are all wonderful. So, how's everybody doing? Good, I hope. Everything is good over here. I know this show's a little bit staggered, but tomorrow's Thanksgiving, so happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Um, yeah, I'm a traditionalist. I'm gonna do the turkey, gravy, all that good stuff. That tryptophan knocks you out, spend the afternoon sleeping kind of deal. Yep, yep, yep. And no, everything is good. Everybody's asked me, about these new updated stories. And there was one story that, you know what? There's this thing about Marilyn Monroe. When you say, I guess even after so much has been written about her, or how's this? Even though they, how's this? I'm trying to think of so much. You think, okay, what is there to write about Marilyn Monroe? I mean, even, usually her biggest thing is, that she was murdered or died or something along those lines. And everybody's like, you know, is that the case or not? But anyway, this is a story that just came out, and this is from James Patterson. For anybody that's not familiar with him, he's written uh, bestseller books, usually uh, murder mysteries, that type of things. So basically, he's saying that he's pretty sure Marilyn Monroe was murdered. Which, by the way, you hear all the thing, and then I've heard other things where she was already suicidal to begin with. But anyway, here's what she's saying. He's written 250 books, sold half a billion copies. Okay, now he's saying that he believes that Marilyn Monroe was probably murdered. I think she was treading in very dangerous waters. He says she had these incredible relationships with President Kennedy and with Robert Kennedy and with Sinatra and with mafia figures. They told her stuff and she kept track of it. She had information that was kind of dangerous. All right. And apparently he's gonna. Well, they interviewed him about this because he's gonna be bringing out a book, The Last Days of Marilyn Monroe, a true crime thriller. So I guess he's gonna go nonfiction. And like, yeah, 63 years. It's been 63 years since they found her dead. And there was a pill container on the nightstand, an empty bottle of Nembutal, and she was 36 years old. And I guess always everybody's thought, yes, she was she had very intimate relationships with these different powerful men, political, whatever, organized crime. And then some people say, well, she told them, I guess, that she was going to write a tell-all book. And I'm thinking to myself, you know what? I can't, if you, I, can't, I think that dumb blonde that she did for her movie scenes, I don't think she was dumb. And that would be really stupid. That if for some reason you have all this, in other words, I don't think she had been around long enough to realize, if I'm going to write a book like this, and that's a big if, I'm not about to tell these people that maybe they've pillow talked secrets or said something or I overheard conversations on the phone. I'm going to tell them, by the way, I'm going to write a book about this. Come on. That's the part that sometimes I find hard to believe, that she would actually like threaten, oh, I'm going to write a book. Because that's like, okay, let me put a bullseye on me. Um, and said here, blah, blah, blah. Yes, that, and apparently this is, this is one of several books that have been released about her. And it says here, does the world really need another Marilyn Monroe project? Don't we already know there is everything there is to know about the wild ride of her life and the intrigue surrounding her untimely end? Okay, now he's saying, Patterson's saying that there's a lot of stuff that he didn't know, such as, and he says, 11 foster homes, the fact that she had a pretty bad stutter when she was a kid. Um, uh, and he's also saying here, he was quoted saying that about the autopsy not being as complete as it should have been, that one of the detectives was convinced the scene was staged. Um, in other words, again, uh, and and again, he basically, I don't know, part of it is like, yeah, he's showing here, and then you guys, for my video audience, you're going to see, that when she died, she was splashed across the front page of all the major newspapers. Her picture, Marilyn dead, things like that. You know, um, this was big, big news. Um, and he's saying that they asked him, like, well, what made you want to write a book about her? And he said that, quote, she was a monster of a star and she kind of threw it away. Again, same thing. Suicide. If it was a suicide, hey, you know what? Wouldn't be the first or the last celebrity. By the way, not a fading celebrity that they commit suicide at the height of their fame, because just because you're famous or successful, you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. Um, and he's saying that it is a true crime thriller. All right, so I'm hoping that he's going to put stuff in there that have not come out in all the previous books. And of course, he's shopping the audiovisual rights. Yeah. So, and that he's going to be doing more books in the last days of series. All right. And I guess he did a previous one for Lennon. And he's considering Elvis. He's considering Gene Hackman. Blah 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 blah. Um, and there we go. I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think that she committed suicide? Do you think she was killed? Whether it was staged? Do you think she was stupid enough to say, "I'm going to write a book about you," or whoever it was? That she. By this, I'm not saying that it could have been staged. Sure, of course. But at the same time, I'm thinking, I don't know. I'm curious to see what do you guys think. All right, let me know. Send me the emails or the comments on the video. What do you think? After so many years, honestly, I've never really done deep research on it. I think I know because, like he said, so many people have written their version of what they think has happened. And one of the last ones I heard was that, yes, that she was suicidal and that she had tried to commit suicide before. And obviously, from what he's saying, 11 foster home, that tells me this. She had a traumatic childhood. All right, that, and again, you could be successful. That'll poke its head up even as you grow older. All right, so let's get on to the good part. The good part is, who is the guest today at Stories of the Supernatural. He's been here before. He's fantastic. His name is Allan Pacheco. Okay, and he is. I'm gonna I'm gonna use the bio he gave me, but he is the consummate storyteller, raconteur, tour guide in Santa Fe, and he sent me something. They call me assassin. Quote, a zillion years ago, an owner of a Santa Fe ghost tour company, a competitor labeled me the assassin, him as in being Al Pacheco, amongst other things, because I told my tour groups the lowdown on the hauntings and backed up the story with interesting evidence of who, what, when. I did not go along with the mush that other guides told their groups or solo tourists. Also, I took my safaris to the areas where the action is, as in where the apparition or apparitions had been seen. In other words, I ended up assassinating the old fairy tales. But the real stories were so much more interesting, so I was branded the assassin. My way of doing tours was different than other tour guides, and I caught some flack or a lot of verbal shellfire for telling it like it is when it came to the royal city's history and the metaphysical. My view on things, it was better to tell the ghost or history story by way of investigation and scholarly research, because facts are stranger than fiction. The real tales, not the idiotic, politically correct yarns, are more intriguing plus more frightening. Thus, the nickname came into being. Help me welcome him. How are you doing today? Is
That's
that
quite
great?
an intro. Thank you,
Let
thank
me
you.
tell you something. I have to laugh because that I could just see you actually doing that. Like, okay, I'm gonna rain on your parade and tell it like it is.
Well, yeah, that's how I got that nickname. And like you said it, uh, truth is stranger than fiction,
Yeah.
and it's more scary. And that's what the Royal City is all about with my tours.
Mm-hmm.
I tell the people, this is the story, and this is what I have investigated. This
Mm-hmm.
is what I've come up with in in the archives. And let's think about this. And does my data make more sense than what is bandied about? And
Okay.
usually I win hands down. And of
Okay.
course, with my tools that I use for different investigations, all kinds of paranormal gadgets, yeah, it's bullseye.
Let me ask you. I'm going to ask you because I'm thinking, wait a minute. If anybody really knows about this, it would be Al. That thing about Marilyn Monroe, Alan. What do you think,
Ah,
or what have you
she was
heard?
she was murdered,
Okay.
and yeah, uh, she there's she had an affair with JFK.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know for the listeners here. Uh, Back in the early '60s, I'm gonna say like '61. There she is in this skin-tight dress at Madison Square Garden, and she's singing "Happy Birthday" to the president.
Oh yeah.
It's yeah, in other words, it's so obvious with what's going on now. JFK, uh, great president in some areas, bad president in other areas, but he was a lover,
Oh yeah.
and he had an affair with Marilyn. And the stuff that you said, she's going to write a book. I don't think so, but she did have some inside information,
Oh
and
yeah. No, I'm
when
sure
she
she overheard a lot of stuff.
yeah, pillow talk, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the stuff that she was going to let go, she was so disturbed when she got dropped by JFK that she's going to tell the world that she had an abortion and JFK was her lover,
Mm-hmm.
and that couldn't get on out. And there's other things too. And here's something that's really wild. Supposedly, JFK was very concerned about what was going on in Area 51. That's the top secret base outside of Las Vegas, Nevada, and that's
Yes.
where they're back engineering uh, captured, crashed alien technology.
Right.
He went on over there, and he's the president of the United States, and he could not get the answers that he wanted, or supposedly go to certain places that he wanted to. Now, this is the commander in chief.
Right. And
That's
he must have been
how,
asking himself, "Well, how's this work?"
yes. And so, with that, and Alien, etc., and she's going to spill the beans about that. And yeah, so she was silenced. And as far as how she died, they're going to say that she downed a lot of pills.
Mm-hmm.
And here's something interesting that never comes on out. Uh, the they were doing plumbing work in her house, and the area that she lived in had no the bathroom, etc. The water was turned on off. So how's she going to down all those pills without any water?
That's
Now
interesting.
here's another thing about that is okay. Did the assassin? Oh, I shouldn't say that because go back to me to my the killers, the hitmen. Did the force her down, and did they give her an enema? And that's
Mm-hmm.
how she ended up getting those pills into her system.
Right.
Now, here's something on else that is okay. Go either way on this, and you stop me if you've heard this story.
Mm-hmm.
That as she was dying, she got to a telephone and she called out for help, and she was incoherent. And who did supposedly uh, Peter Lawford got
Right.
the phone call. You've heard the
Okay.
story then.
No, no, no. I haven't. Keep going.
Okay. and he is married to JFK's sister. He's in the Kennedy clan,
Mm-hmm.
and he did not. He went along with the operation. He did not, call the operator. Back in those days there was no 911.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a woman who's in trouble, etc. Now that was supposedly one of the falling on out between Frank Sinatra and Peter Lawford. Back in those days,
Right, because
Frank
wasn't he
Sinatra.
part of the Rat Pack or something like
That
that?
that's exactly, yeah. The Rat Pack was uh, Dean Martin, Peter Lawford, Joey Bishop, and a few other
Mm-hmm.
characters there, and he would do an ad lib uh, nightclub act like at the Sahara or someplace in New Jersey, etc. And it
Right.
was really, really good. And with that, after that, Peter he didn't want to have anything to do with Peter Lawford, and Peter Lawford was kicked out of the Rat Pack, and then in essence, Sammy Davis Jr. Pretty much left with Peter Lawford down the road, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's that. There's a lot of, how do you say, information there that was not let loose to
Sure.
the press, and the press went along with anything. Well, I shouldn't say that. Uh, they were enchanted by Camelot, what they used to call the
Right.
JFK White House, and they did not report a lot of things that were going on. So, yeah, Marilyn was murdered, and Marilyn, okay, she may be very dumb in some areas, but in other ways, she's incredibly smart, street smarts. Yes, she grew on up in foster homes. Who knows how many times she was molested, raped,
Mm-hmm.
but she had this drive and this beauty to get to the next level. And it's just not pure luck for somebody to get to the top of the pyramid there in Hollywood. Uh, she had to know how to use her ways and get
Sure.
leverage on people. So yeah, for her to get wiped out like that, and of course you're going to say, oh well, she was. The cover story is she's suicidal. She's the dumb blonde. Well, yeah,
Right.
she's an actress. She can act whichever way she
Mm-hmm.
wants, and that yes. So she had some damning information, and she was taken on out. Now, was she taken on out by way of JFK or by way of
The mafia. I mean, 'cause they're
the?
saying she was. That was the thing. She was.
Well,
She
yeah,
was
I
having
was gonna.
affairs with a lot of people that had.
Yeah, I would say that it wasn't on JFK's okay, and he green lighted it. I
Mm-hmm.
think they're saying, well, okay, if this comes on out, we're in trouble. So you have all of these gangster organizations or secret organizations inside the government. They're going to say, okay, uh, time to take her on out.
Or
And
what is it that they call it? Plausible deniability, where, like you said, they're having this conversation. Hey, she's been with me, and the Robert, everybody's the brothers there, the Kennedy brothers are going, and then, oh, hey, by the way, she's seeing this guy in the, and maybe they don't say do something about it, but they kind of infer, man, this could be a problem, a real big problem. And there's some guy in the troubleshooter there in the room that says, don't worry, I'll take care of it. In other words, they would never say do this to her, like get rid of her permanently, but it's understood, like, hey, this could be a real big problem if she ever gets mad at one of us. Or like what you were saying, maybe it's like, hey, she didn't take the breakup that well. We got to be careful. You know.
yeah, and with the breakup, and then with other information that you'd have,
Yeah.
and you say to yourself, okay, top secret type of stuff, and let's get rid of her because Majestic is going to be discovered before it should be discovered. The Majestic 12 people, etc. There's so many different
Well, I think
avenues on this.
also
Yeah,
her being like, like I said, like when she died, it made the front page of all these newspapers. If she would have been a nobody that they were having an affair with, let's say a showgirl nobody knew, they could have said, yeah, honey, go ahead, talk to whoever you want. Okay, fine, bye. But her being Marilyn Monroe and being an actress and well known, all she would need was to get a couple of reporters. And if she said she was going to get attention, especially if she's dropping some bombs about truth bombs. Oh,
yes,
yeah. She had the, how's this? She had the name recognition to get attention versus a nobody. So maybe
yeah.
that's probably part of the problem for them was like, yeah, the last thing we need is Marilyn to like spill the beans on us.
Yeah, and her maid was there, and she was either threatened and bribed, etc. She died a few years ago, and I think she had dementia or Alzheimer's, whatever category
Mm-hmm.
that is. But she, a lot of what she said did not make sense as far as what happened that night. And yeah, poor Marilyn. Uh, one of the things about Marilyn, if you change physically, your face grows, etc., from
Mm-hmm.
teenager into your 20s, into your 30s, etc. But if you look at her pictures and just think about this, look at her picture when she's young versus how she's older. I think she had a lot of surgery done to her face.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
possible. Sure.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I imagine, Alan, you would really be familiar with this, especially back in the 60s. Once an actress started going into her 30s, not a lot of them would be able to transition. Some did, maybe instead of being the daughter, now they were the mother. How's that? But yeah, she was 36 years old. So maybe, who knows, maybe along the way, she did some nip and tuck because
Well, I'm thinking that not in her 30s. I'm thinking right into her late teens, early 20s.
really, you
Because if
think
you look
so?
at her, yeah, you look at some of the photos that were taken to her,
Mm-hmm.
some black and whites
Right.
from right after World War II versus what she is in. She has a really small role in Marx Brothers movie called Love Happy, or she has a small role in a great film noir called The Asphalt Jungle.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at her, how, uh, gosh, what's the right word? Uh, Voluptuous she is, or
Right.
striking, etc., versus these other photos of her. And you say, so how can somebody go from that look to, in just a few years,
Yeah,
to
grow into
this
that. You don't grow into
sex
that look.
goddess? Yeah.
I'm not surprised. I mean, I know that some of these actresses, I mean, the teeth and stuff like that. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised though. They kind of like, back then, I imagine they said she's got potential, but we're going to do this and that to her. And, you know,
Yeah,
because,
she was one of the chosen ones. He says, "Okay, I'll do whatever I got to do to
sure.
get to the next level," and that's one of the terrible things about the film business is that it's has there's a lot of satanic undertones or overtones
Mm-hmm.
in it, and what they're going to do and what they're going to champion as
Sure.
far as uh, getting to the well, to the A list.
Right, and right. In other words, and I imagine along the way they say, so you're willing to do anything. You mean anything? And then and I guess, and then I think there's sometimes you see people that all of a sudden they fade away, and I think maybe they get to the point that they wanted them to do or participate in something, and they said, "No, man, I'm not going to do that." And then that's it. All of a
Right.
sudden, they just like drop from view. They just
Hmm.
disappear.
Yeah. You'd be surprised. I don't. I'm a SAG after actor,
Mm-hmm.
uh, card carrying member for the audience, and my experience with the film industry and television, not all, but vast majority, is that you have people of a certain mentality, of a certain negative spirituality, that are
Right.
the ones that are calling the shots.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of great talent on out there, but if you are not in lockstep with their liberalism, their what do you call it, humanism,
Mm-hmm.
their whatever it
The
is,
transhumanism, yeah.
yeah, dark road of
Let me tell you something.
a fed
Just a
religion, yeah, yeah, you are not going to get that role. Yeah,
right, right, and I've heard. I want to say I cannot think of any child actor, especially the ones that actually go on and keep going, that eventually they put out autobiographies where they underwent some type of molestation or attempts at molestation when they went into the industry. Like all
yes,
of them. I mean, nobody got saved from that.
yeah.
And
Uh,
in other words, this wasn't like, okay, there's this one director who's creepy. I think what you're saying is they were all creepy. They were all dark, and it was
it
like,
didn't used to be that way, but it has gotten. worse. And now uh, you look at filmdom, and we touched on this on a few shows
Mm-hmm.
ago. But you look at Mr. Creep, uh, Roman Polanski,
Oh boy, yeah.
and okay, so he ends on up fleeing the USA because he, what was it, statutory rape with a 13-year-old or something to
Yeah,
that
that he
effect.
drugged her and raped her and a bunch of stuff. Yeah.
And then he's there in Switzerland. There's other stories that have come on out with when he was doing films in England, etc. Underage
Mm-hmm.
actress, woman, the Oriental one. She was, how do you say, used by him when she was 15, 16 years old.
Right.
I forget what her name is. And anyway, uh, all these stories. And then the bad thing about that is at award ceremony, you have people like Salma Hayek and Meryl Streep.
I can't. I
Uh,
can't. I'm telling you, when I saw that, I was like, "Are you kidding? What is
Set
that?"
the stage for the crowd of what happened there and how disgusting it was
Yep.
for the
Yep.
listeners.
And what happened was, let me tell you, apparently when he got accused of that rape against, I think it was like you said, a 13-year-old, somewhere along the line he was thinking that he was gonna get a slap on the wrist, don't do that, or probation. Then he somehow found out, maybe through his attorney, that said, "Hey, no, they're gonna throw the book at you," and that's when he fled and went
Right.
to Europe because I guess he was told by everybody, "Ah, don't worry about it, it's not a big deal." And
Yeah.
now yeah, what was it? How long ago was it? Like 3 or 4 or 5 years ago that I think they were trying to. I don't want to say like a pardon or in other words, they wanted to allow him to come back to the United States and not get arrested. And like you said, they had these actresses and all these actors like, oh, poor Roman is like, are you kidding me? Do you understand what you're standing up? You're in the corner of a pedophile. That's just dandy.
Right.
Yeah,
And I don't know if it was the Academy Awards or it was some award ceremony
yeah. Was it? It was
where
the Academies. I can't. I
and
can't.
Harrison Ford was on up there, and they give Roman Polanski some award, an absentee, and everybody gets on up and starts cheering for him. And okay, so you're going to be cheering for a uh, sex predator, and it's just
Yeah.
not one. There's many, many other types of things that he's done as
Yes.
far as with underage people,
Mm-hmm.
and you're going to say, "Oh, that's okay. He's an artist,"
Yeah.
and we're no, no, no. I mean, this guy is is a serial child molester, rapist, and
Yes.
yet these powers in front of the camera and behind the camera are cheering for him at this award ceremony.
That yeah. That you would think. Do you realize what you're doing? Well, I think that they. I don't know. They did. I know. I think these actors. They did get some type of. You know. People weren't pleased with that. Not that they care, but it was like, all right. You at the very least don't have. In other words, they don't think of the consequences as far as their image is concerned.
No, I think that they do, and I
You
think
think
that
so?
is another type of thing of okay, of how do you say, of invoking, of getting power. Like here
Mm-hmm.
we are out in public, and we are on national TV or international because it's going to go around the world,
Right.
and here we are cheering for somebody who's done demonic evil, and that's the way
Sure.
that evil is. If evil can do something and put it out in front of the world or in front of the crowd
Right.
and people do not reject it, then evil becomes that much more stronger.
Sure.
And that's what we have so much camouflaged that's in front of us. Or okay, it's there and it's saying here I am, and people do not do anything about it, and that's how come you have more of how to say the way that the power of darkness works. It becomes stronger
Yes.
because in essence it's going against the light, it's going against the Trinity, Big G, whatever you want to call it,
Mm-hmm.
and people are bowing the knee to it and not saying, hey, that's wrong, no more.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's. I think that. And I want to say, even if, let's say, for purposes of argument, let's say you're either you call yourself an atheist or an agnostic, whatever. Okay, either or. You know, you would think your moral compass would be that I would never do that to a child. Plus, I would never applaud or approve of anyone that did it. So it tells you, okay, these people, you have to, your lifestyle, the way your mind works, you have to be on board with this.
Right.
This is not just a question of like that you say, well, I'm not a religious person. This really has nothing to do with religion. It has to do like what kind of person are you?
Yeah. And for you to get applause and
Yes.
wipe the slate clean. No, I mean that is something that you have to be held accountable for doing something. The
Sure.
worst thing that you can do in this world, and you can go with Catholicism, with the Baptists, yeah, numerous faiths,
Mm-hmm.
is for one to hurt a kid, a child,
Sure. Of course.
and that's and people like Whoopi Goldberg is going to say, well, there's rape and there's such thing as rape. This woman, well, this young girl was experienced. She knew what she was doing. I say, hey,
Oh,
whoops,
come on.
what kind of deal have you made
Oh, sure.
with the devil yourself? Because look at
Yeah.
who you are and what she talks about in her autobiography. She's another one of these people that how do you say is gosh, I would have to say by her actions uh, in the category of uh, darkness.
Of course. Of course. No, yeah, yeah, yeah. You could tell. Yeah, you paid the dues, but I can understand or I can guess what kind of dues you actually paid to get where you're at right now, and et cetera, et cetera. And I think that, I mean, think about it. Polanski, he directed Rosemary's Baby. That was pretty dark back then. That was maybe by
Well,
comparison now people are more jaded, but when I remember when that movie came out, that was a movie.
I remember that, yeah, and for we, the listening audience has to understand this that society was completely different back in
Oh yes,
1968, and when
absolutely.
that movie came on out, uh, it was it was gripping,
Mm-hmm.
and all it is Roman Polanski doing a story about the devil here in this world, John Cassavetes and Mia Farrow,
Mm-hmm.
and all it's. I always thought to myself that, and I don't think I've ever said this. There is a movie from 1943. Gosh, and I think it's called The Seventh Victim, and it's an unknown film. And I always thought that the scene of the satanic worshippers in the modern film is taken from that film from 1943, and it's a very very well done film. I think Hugh Beaumont's in it. As a matter of fact, he
Mm-hmm.
is the Beaver's father in the TV series Leave It to
Really,
Beaver.
really,
Yeah,
him?
yeah, it's yeah, it's gosh, Brooks was I think that one of the cameramen or editors for that, and but yeah, so, and here's something on else here too about that movie. Okay, if okay, I'm being the assassin. I'm telling it like it is, and I'm popping balloons.
Do it,
Okay,
do it.
okay, Alfred Hitchcock, and he say, "You're genius." That scene in Psycho
Yes,
just destroyed the American psyche. Nobody wants to take a shower without peeking behind their shoulder to see if somebody's coming up with them with a knife.
right.
Well, in that movie, The Seventh Victim, uh, there is a scene
Really.
that is, yeah, that Alfred copied of this dark shadow coming up to the shower curtain. The same type of blocking. Now, yeah, I'm going to give something away. No, there's not going to be a stabbing of Janet Leigh
Mm-hmm.
or vis-a-vis in the seventh victim, but the whole
Right.
thing about this person giving this woman a warning or data through the um, curtain. And of course, when are you at your most vulnerable? Americans.
Sure.
And that's when you're either taking a bath or
Mm-hmm.
taking a shower, when you don't have any clothes on, etc. It's part of the American psyche. So for him to do that, okay, he was not man enough to say, well, I stole that from this 1943 movie that nobody's ever seen. And I think it's called The Seventh Victim. Are you close to a
Yes,
computer
I'm
by
looking
chance?
at, yes, yes. I'm looking at it right now, and you're right. The seventh victim, 1943. It starred Tom Conway, Jean Brooks, Isabel Jewell, and Kim Hunter in her film debut.
Yes,
All right.
and she was a great, great actress. See
Mm-hmm.
if Hugh Beaumont has a small part in that one.
Let me see. Mm, let's
Anything comes
see.
on up?
Let me see. Okay, yes, he is his Hugh Beaumont is the character Gregory Ward.
Okay. Well, that's pretty
And
good
I don't
on
know
my
who
part to
Gregory
know that.
Ward, but yeah, he was in it.
Okay, yeah. All right. That's it's begging for a remake, but if they make a remake, they'll wreck it. There's very few films that have been uh redone that are worth its salt. But yeah.
Yeah, but
And
this is because this is the this looks like it's got the cultish like a cult type of flavor to it, right?
oh yeah, it's fantastic. And Kim Hunter plays the ingenue looking
Mm-hmm.
for her sister who's in the
Mm-hmm.
big city and what happened to her, and she's trying to find on out what happened. And the more she digs on into it, she finds on out that her sister has fallen in with this group of Satanists, a coven, and
Mm-hmm.
etc. Yeah, it's fantastic for 1943. You say to yourself, "Wow, that is." They got away with a lot, and it's better than a lot of modern films. The vast majority of modern films, it's top,
Right.
and the blocking, the lighting, fantastic.
Well, it's really funny because they're saying here that it was a short story. It was written, a short story, and then that when they were writing the script for it, they were going to write it as a murder mystery set in California. All right, which is like, a woman being hunted by a serial killer, which, like you're saying, does have that psycho, even though he wasn't, flavor to it. But then, um, DeWitt Bodine, which was one of the writers, he revises it and bases it on a satanic society meeting he attended in New York City. And supposedly it is a prequel to The Cat People, which came out in 1942.
Okay.
Okay. And Conway, who's reprising his role as Dr. Lewis Judd, which I didn't know that this would have been a prequel. Okay. Yep. And believe it or
That I
not,
did not. That I did not know. But again,
yes.
too, you have all these dark orders uh,
Mm-hmm.
in filmdom, in TV. Yeah, and that's
Right. In other words, this story that was written just like you said, the ingenue, the she's goes looking for her sister and basically she's getting stalked by a serial killer. Said, no, let's make them Satanists and we're gonna do the devil worship thing. Let's change the storyline. Yeah, interesting, interesting.
yeah.
Like you said, sometimes they put it in your face, And I know back then, like in the 1940s, they weren't that you know in your face as they are
Blatant.
now. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Right. And of course, with Roman Polanski, Rosemary's Baby, uh, here's something on else about that was
Hmm.
that apartment that they ended on up shooting in the Dakota. In the Dakota,
Right.
there is a very haunted place in New York for the very wealthy.
Yes.
Um, John and Yoko
Hmm.
ended on up renting that place on out, so that became their apartment. And if I
Are you?
remember
Oh,
correct,
wait. The apartment where they filmed that was where they moved into.
they moved into it. Yeah,
Oh, holy smokes! I knew that he lived in the Dakota, but I didn't know it was that same apartment.
yeah.
Wow.
This is going down memory lane. This is a zillion years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah. And if I remember correctly, that's what it was. And I somehow, who was it? I think Robert Ryan had that apartment before uh, before before Roman Polanski came on the scene. Yeah,
Right.
and there's different stories about exactly okay where John Lennon was first hit
Mm-hmm.
with bullets back in 1980 in December when he was murdered, assassinated. Um, it's kind of close to the place in that movie of where the first woman in the film of Rosemary's Baby figures on out that she is has the child of Lucifer in her. So
Mm-hmm.
she jumps out the window and suicide so that this kid, this spawn of hell, will not be born.
Right.
And it's rather, I don't know how many feet away it is from where John Lennon first got shot. Yeah,
Wow.
and of course, Yoko, she's a witch, practices all kinds of witchcraft. I can say, well, did you see it, Alan? Did you, no, I didn't see it. I wasn't there with her. I've seen a lot, but this is what I've heard. How to say my sources? It's
Okay.
alleged. Okay,
Uh-huh.
and there's a lot of things too about the Beatles, about Haverstock, and about how they were picked to become this group to,
Yes,
yes,
I've
to
heard that.
brainwash the American audience because you're listening to something good, but it's going to be getting you to a different level, and you're going to be more susceptible to commands or to
Right.
gosh, bad behavior. You look at the CBS icon, the gigantic eye watching you.
Mm-hmm. I remember that. Yes.
Yeah.
And you know what? And believe it or not, I had not heard this until recently that, like you said, that the Beatles, they were mediocre musicians, but they were created as in they had, I can't remember what the guy's name was, the one that wrote all the songs. In other words, they got this guy who was really, really good at crafting the songs, the music. In other words, we're going to give you such good music to play that it doesn't really matter that you're really not great musicians. All you have to do is, you're going to go out there and perform, and we're going to propel you into stardom for the purposes of what you just described.
Yeah, and they are the vanguard of them doing that. And then after that, oh, the British invasion, let's
Yes.
get some more. And they're going to be even darker, like, for
Mm-hmm.
example, the Rolling Stones. You
Yes.
see yourself, the Rolling Stones, they're really not that good. They
Mm-mm.
got a couple of, all right, good songs. But
Yeah.
after that, it's just
Yeah.
mediocre. But you look at what they are, how do you say, oh gosh, selling to the public.
Sure.
And again, too, that is hidden. And we touched on this just a little bit last time, the
Mm-hmm.
Altamont concert of 1969, on December 6th. Do you want me to go more into that or not
Yes.
really?
Yes. Yeah. Let's go there.
Oh, okay. Well, the Rolling Stones were the head act. In 1969, they wanted to have the Woodstock of the West. Woodstock was this concert in New York in August. And one of the things about that that's not well known is supposedly, again, to were you there, Alan? I mean, were you there in the laboratory with the CIA? Okay, this is what they ended on up doing at Woodstock. It was one of their mind control tests, and they
Mm-hmm.
let some of the sunshine acid into some of the takers of LSD there,
Right.
and this sunshine acid is going to be a CIA byproduct of lowering your inhibitions, and you're going to be more pliable to do deeds that you would never would do. And that was tried there in some of the crowd there at Woodstock. Well, okay, you have this 1969, and a few months later, December 6th at Altamont. That's going to be by the Bay Area south of it. So it's going to be this drag strip racetrack, kind of like a halfway's bowl. And they're going to say at minimum, they're going to say 200. The crowd keeps on going on up, 150,
Right.
250,000. I'm going to say, because I remember the reports and then later on research, 400,000 people there at this concert. So this is when Mick Jagger and the Rolling Stones had just done their album, or close to it, Sympathy for the Devil. Okay, you
Mm-hmm.
think about that, Sympathy for the
Sure.
Devil. What's that all about? Okay, it's able to excuse the Prince of Darkness for all of his deeds. And, it's okay, Louis, we're all base people, and let's just, like Aleister Crowley says,
Yeah.
do what one wants. No, 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 that's not what this world's about. Anyway, they
Right.
have this concert there, and they get the Hell's Angels there for to be security. So the Hell's Angels are there on the front of the stage there, and so that they won't have any of the crowd come on up there. And it just turns into a melee, a riot.
Sure.
People are killed. There's in the documentary Gimme Shelter. There's bits of Meredith. I forget what his last name, something Meredith. He's the 18-year-old black guy who gets killed by one of the Hell's Angels with a knife there in the front of the stage there.
Right.
And one of the things about the tour business, especially paranormal,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm taking people on tours at night, and every now and then you can run into people here in Santa Fe
Mm-hmm.
who there is an evil in them, and you look at them and they're going to be aggressors, or they're going to be you can see it in their eyes. You can see it.
Yes.
I mean, it's just something's entered
There's
into
something
them.
about them. Yep.
Yeah, and okay, so you've got to fight fire with water because sometimes they'll go after the group. Somebody want their Rolex or whatever, whoever. They say, yeah, sometimes I'm doing the opera crowd and they're wearing their Rolexes, which I don't like, but okay,
Right. Right.
yeah, and like wearing a loin of pork chops. If there's
It's like, oh my
a
God.
pack of
Yeah.
pit
Yeah.
bulls, yeah, for
Exactly.
over there. Yeah, okay. So yeah, so you see this, and you can see sometimes how this energy will come into a person. He'll come across the street, and he'll want to take you on or take on the group. Okay, so you got to rock and roll with him. And so you got to make sure that you say to yourself, okay, with these people, that you understand that you're not afraid to bleed, that you're not going to get my group. So anyway, so the thing about this is with Meredith, whatever the guy who was killed by this other Hell's Angel, he was just crazed, and they're going to say, well, he was on on speed,
Right.
but no, that there's something beyond that. And if the listeners on this here, if they ever go onto YouTube and get the Ultimate Concert, Rolling Stones, Give Me Shelter, there's going to be a scene
Mm-hmm.
of one of the, what do you want to call it, initiates, Hell's Angel, that's there on stage, and you can see him becoming possessed. He looks
Really.
kind of like a Viking and big, strong guy, like a NFL linebacker or college linebacker, and you can
Mm-hmm.
see him grimace, even brings his hands up close to his
So he
face,
does like a
and he
something like a
clenches
transition, like into like a berserker, you think?
like yeah, kind of like he's turning into Lon Chaney the werewolf or something.
Alrighty
It's
then.
yeah, and he's getting and he's overheating. He takes off his colors, and of course that's when he gets into trouble, and he gets the other senior adult Hell's Angels throw him off the stage, get him off the stage. But you can
Mm-hmm.
see that kind of energy. So, there's all these fights that break on out in the audience as Mick Jagger is singing "Sympathy for the Devil," and
Mm-hmm.
then Meredith Burney or whatever. No, no, not Meredith Burney. Uh, um, I don't whatever Meredith's name. When he gets stabbed, that's when they're singing "Under My Thumb." Okay, more of this satanic symbolism underneath my
Right.
thumb, and this guy gets killed.
Yes.
Yeah, and of course they're going to say, well, what can happen? When you've got the Hell's Angels as security. Well, they
Sure.
had they had cue sticks cut on off so they can use them as clubs to keep people away from the stage. And the deal was something for X amount of beer that they're going to be security, and they're dealing with the elite of the Hells Angels. These are the guys, Sonny Barger's guys from San Jose, from Oakland.
Mm-hmm.
And before this, like in '67, Jagger and the Stones had the London Hells Angels do security for them at a concert. Well, there's a completely different mentality
Sure.
between the British and the American Hells Angels. So you don't want to mess with them. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
So
But
anyway,
then,
the point being about this is a disguised summoning, a disguised black mass that's happening there with tires, but with I mean with uh, bonfires there and all the goings on there, and people don't realize that they're part of this. Uh, well, what can I say? Black Sabbath.
have you ever
Uh,
heard, Alan, of the 27 Club?
I'm sorry.
Okay, this is a thing about all these. The 27 Club, usually it's mostly
Oh yes,
musicians
yes, yes, yes.
that they
Uh,
all kind of like either get killed or commit suicide or die at the age of 27.
right.
And
Yes.
that, yeah, that when you start looking at it, you're like, wow. As a matter of fact, they want to say Kurt Cobain. There were others before that, before Kurt Cobain committed suicide, but his
I don't
death.
think he committed. Okay, okay.
Well,
Uh,
and I know that there's a debate there, but supposedly when he died was when the 27 Club came into prominence, even though there was a lot of other musicians and artists that had already died at the age of 27, but his was what brought notoriety to that, that list of musicians that had died at that age. Like that was the age. Like in other words, that you die at the height of your fame. Like,
Right. Yeah. Jim Morrison, Jimi
yeah.
Hendrix, Wheezy. What was her name? Her nickname was Wheezy. She was the from southeast Texas, I think from Portertown or gosh, she was a singer back in the 1960s. Gosh, uh,
Let me see. There was
right, soul singer. Yeah, Janis
so
Joplin.
Oh yeah, yeah, yes.
Yeah,
Yes. Oh
all
yeah.
of them. Yeah,
She died like within her, and there was a bunch of them that died like
at
this was
27.
like you said that they were all doing very like you name it, heroin. They were heroin addicts. Um yeah. They Jimi Hendrix was also another one.
Right.
That
Yeah, he's at 27. Yeah, and I didn't know Kurt Cobain. I didn't know he was 27, but I
mhm.
think that was okay. He died at 27, but I think that he was rubbed on out. I think he was murdered.
I'd heard of that. I'd heard of that and I was always wondering, is that accurate? Because apparently, and again, you hear so many things, or you read so many things that apparently he did have, okay, there was like suicides in his family. Like in other words, he had a family history. I think he had an uncle or like a couple of men in his family that had committed suicide. Now that doesn't mean automatically you're going to do that, but apparently this was, you know. But yeah, it was like Jimi Hendrix died, and then like 2 weeks later, Janis Joplin died, and they were both. I think it was because of they OD'd on drugs and stuff like that, and alcohol and all this stuff. You know,
Well, uh, Hendrix. Here, I'll throw some conspiracy.
let's hear
It
it.
was perhaps made to look like that, but
Mm-hmm.
he was murdered there in London. And as far as Janis Joplin goes, I don't know about her. And Jim Morrison, I uh, again to yeah, he's dead, etc. But a lot of things kind of don't make kind of don't no, they don't make sense about his death. And but I think that Morrison is well was that guy what he was plugged on into, his vocals and some of the imagery in that music is fantastic. I think
Mm-hmm.
that his music, The Doors, is going to live on for centuries because of the adjectives and adverbs that are in those vocals.
Well, the thing is this: when he died, like you said, he died, in France. They didn't perform an autopsy, all right, and they said that he had died of a heart attack, heart failure, whatever. Even though, like unofficially, they're thinking, oh, he died from an OD. But again, and they think, well, why wouldn't they do an autopsy on somebody if you're not sure what did he die from, all right?
Hmm.
And they didn't. It was like, no, had a heart failure, even though he was a young guy. He was 27 years old. Heart failure. No, that's it. No autopsy. Bury him. Again, why? Why would they do that?
Yeah.
So yeah, but it was like Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, Jim Morrison. They were all dying like very close together, almost.
And there
Um,
wasn't there another guy by the name of Johnson who died at 27?
oh, you mean
Now,
the guitarist, the black guitarist?
yes, and he made the deal
Ye-
at the crossroads with the devil.
right,
And okay,
Robert Johnson.
yeah. And was he at 27 as well too when he
Yes, he
died?
was. He was at
Okay, there
27.
we go. Yeah.
Well, the story on him was this. He was, he was down south, and he was like, when they go play at these juke joints and everything. And he was a guitarist, but they said that he was kind of like so, like, not really great. And then he gets married or hooks up with a girl. She's 14. She dies in childbirth. And in other words, he disappears for a while. I guess he's caught up with this thing about his wife and they lose the baby, whatever. Anyway, he reappears a few months later And all of a sudden, this guy that supposedly was like, "You're not that good." He's like this like virtuoso guitarist. And from there, they were saying that he had gone to a crossroads and he had sold his soul for the ability to become a great guitarist.
Yeah.
And he had just, I believe, he had just signed like his first single. He had recorded his first single, and then all of a sudden he just poops. He dies, and it took them they because also back then, this was not like now that they record everything. But it took like it wasn't until like 68 that they found a copy of the death certificate. All right. And it didn't list the cause of death, no autopsy, of course. And they even, because back then they even thought, because I guess he was a ladies' man, that he was poisoned by a jealous husband or something like that. But on the back, they said on the back of the death certificate, they found a note from saying that he thought that he had been that he had died of syphilis, but not syphilis like he had contracted. In other words, that his mom was syphilitic and he was born with syphilis. That he
Mhm.
contracted syphilis, that she passed the infection to him. Again, nobody knows because even now, if I remember correctly, Alan, they don't even know exactly where he's buried. There's like three different grave sites that they say, oh, he was buried here, but nobody knows for sure where
Yeah.
he ended up being buried. But yeah, I believe he was the first one, Robert Johnson.
Right. Well,
Um,
that's the thing. You make uh, they say you make the deal with the
yes.
crossroads with
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Scratch, and I can see that with a lot of people doing how they've got to the level of fame or of power, and you say to yourself, they were picked on out of a pool of countless people, and
Right.
yet this person who is so limited with skill, he
Mm-hmm.
or she, and now you're up there. Okay, what did you do? Who did you
Yeah.
make a
Who
deal
owed
with?
who a favor?
Yeah, yeah, and that's how you got to the top there.
Sure.
Yeah,
And I,
it
and I
happens.
want to say that a lot. I imagine, and you tell me that sometimes they tell these publicists, "Hey, I want you to push this person. I want you to write stories about this person. I want you to make it sound like this person is God's gift to whatever music, writing, whatever." In other words, and some people, oh well, if and all the newspapers are saying he's great, he's a great actor, he's a great this, and all of a sudden, what is it? You say something enough times and people believe it's the truth.
Right. Yeah. Classic example, and here we go. Steven Spielberg. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that guy, in my opinion, he did a couple of good films, but for what he's done, it's a lot of it's sugar-coated garbage, and
Mm-hmm.
of course that's going against all of the Hollywood dictums of oh, this guy is Howard Hawks on steroids or well, no, he wouldn't be Sam Fuller. Sam Fuller's a great director, but yeah, no, it's you look at a lot of these people that are pushed, and you say to yourself, no, that really wasn't so good. Why? And then again, too, you say to yourself, well, the dumbing down of Hollywood and the dumbing down of the American public.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, it's worked, and that's what we have with our school system, with the arts,
Sure.
and
Yes.
yeah, okay, so you'll applaud for something that's not that great. Now, am I saying that Spielberg made a deal with the devil? No, I'm not. I'm just saying he's one of those type of people that he's vastly overrated.
Well, think about it though, also, Alan. If you've got a studio, it's going to pour millions of dollars in their budget for the filming for this film. It's going to look good at least. You know what I'm saying? Because you've got the funds to hire the best actors or the best people behind the scenes, whether it's the guy that writes the music, cinematography. If you've got all that money behind you, like you said, even if the storyline is like, it's going to look so slick and put together that it's going to do well just because. And then, of course, once that person gets that reputation, let's say in this case Spielberg, it's like, of course, his next film is like, oh, it's great, stuff like
Right.
that.
Well, here's something again too. We're talking about uh, uh, thievery. After a hard day of thieving, what did you come home with? All right. A lot of people don't know this, but Charlton Heston did a film, and Charlton Heston is just the opposite of Spielberg and the rest of the gang, who
Mm-hmm.
are liberals.
Ah,
Basically,
yes, yes.
they say I'm Jewish, but you're not practicing your faith, but you
Mm-hmm.
want to label yourself as, well, as a Jew or this kind of stuff here. And no, no, you shouldn't be doing that because you're not practicing your religion, but it
Right.
becomes a moniker anyway. Charlton Heston is just the opposite, conservatism, Second Amendment,
Mm-hmm.
etc.
Yes.
And he did a film called Secret of the Incas, and that movie, his character has the same gear, the same wardrobe as what Spielberg did for his character in the Raiders series, Raiders of the Lost
Really?
Ark. Yes, and that's another one of those, you know, all the how good a thief are you to get stuff and revamp it and say, oh, it's out of my mind, etc. And I'm
Right.
doing
I
this.
felt creative that day.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
if you see that movie,
I'm
you're
gonna
gonna say,
see it.
okay, this is where.
I just wrote it down right now. Secret of the Inkies, and I love. By the way, I've always liked Charlton Heston movies.
Yeah,
I've always loved his movies. He's a good actor. I consider him a very good actor.
yeah. I can. There's some of his films. I cannot say that anybody could have done any better than him. I okay, classic movie, Ben Hur. I can't
Oh yeah, I
see
was gonna say
any
Ben
other
Hur.
actor being able to do it. Or this other unknown film that he did, and he got Louis Stevenson's character of Long John Silver correctly in the movies called Treasure Island,
Mm-hmm.
and you can get the trimmed version, or you can get the uh, airline version, back when they used to show movies on this big screen in airline, or
Right.
you can get the European version, and he was able to do Long John Silver justice. There's all these other films of Treasure Island. They've
Mm-hmm.
never ever done this pirate dynamo correctly, but Heston was able to nail it. And then, of course, his famous line in the Omega Man, which was it could have been a great sci-fi, but there's just bits and pieces of that are good. He says, "My God, it's almost dark. We'll be waking up soon."
Yeah. Yes. And that's the thing, that people don't realize that back then, you know, um, well, in Soylent Green, you remember Soylent Green?
Oh yes, yes, yes.
He did a lot of those quasi sci-fi movies when back then, in other words, it wasn't about a flying saucer because prior to that, everything was like sci-fi was flying saucer. His
Right.
was like a
Yes.
dystopian kind of like future kind of deal.
Right. And interestingly, uh, "Make Way, Make Way," I think was the title of the novel for Soylent Green,
Mm-hmm.
and also the Omega Man was called "I Am Legend,"
Yes.
and yes, and I Matheson wrote it,
Yes,
and
Robert
I didn't.
Matheson.
I didn't think it was that good, and I thought that if they had done it right with Heston, it would have been a much better film. It was done on the cheap, but
Mm-hmm.
Heston's scenes are very, very good. But there's a few other good scenes in it without him in it. But
Right.
Anthony Zerbe is fantastic as Matthias. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and then there was the terrible remake of that with
Yes.
God,
Yes.
what's the guy's name?
Will
Uh,
Smith.
yeah, Smith. Oh gosh, that should be burnt.
See, well, and you know what? We come to what I was telling you about. Some of these earlier films where, in other words, your acting had to be good and all the other things because you didn't have CGI, you didn't have all these special effects that were so over the top that you were like blown away because they were so great. It was like, no, the quality of the movie rested on the actors, the director, all the stuff that was going on. So, and yeah, in other words, what carried the movie was a good acting, not because you had this fantastic CGI effects going on around you that it was like everybody's so blown away, like, wow. That back then, no, back then it was a story. You had to have a good storyline.
Well, yeah, in the Omega Man, there's holes in the script, but with Charlton Heston and his acting and Anthony Zerbe being a fantastic villain, that's yeah, they carried that story. And here's something on else about Anthony Zerbe. Now, I always thought that Steve McQueen was a very underrated actor, and he had the nickname back in the 1960s, the King of Cool. And of
Mm-hmm.
course, Michael Jackson appropriated it by saying he's the king of pop. Well, no, he's not. But anyway, McQueen was the king of cool. And
Yes.
there's only one, and they're always in filmdom. There some directors or producers, whatever, will say, "Well, who wins this scene?" You have different characters
Right.
in there, and you say, "Who's gonna the audience is going to go to?" All right,
Mm-hmm.
McQueen is always winning his scenes, but there's one where he loses or at best ties, and that's in an unknown film called Papillon, where he's up
Oh
against
my
Anthony
God, that's
Zerbe.
not a that's a great film.
Yes,
That is a
and
great
he
film.
and Zerb is playing the leper bandit king, and that okay, you say to yourself, wow, McQueen at best tied Zerb in that scene. I mean, that is how brilliant uh, some of the acting is in that film is for Zerb to beat the king of cool or tie him in that leper scene.
You know
So
which
he's
one
going to go
I
by the boat. Yeah, yeah.
which film from Steve McQueen I really like? The Sand Pebbles.
Oh, okay. Well, okay, that again was on another book, and the guy who wrote it had been a sailor back in the 1920s, 1930s,
Mm-hmm.
war-torn China,
Yes.
and nobody knows that movie, and you know it very, very
Yes.
good, Em.
Yes, I
And you know the
love the
thing that I
Sand
like
Pebbles.
so that movie. Um, Combat scenes are so phony, and they glorified. It should not be glorified, but in that movie, it's his McQueen. The way that he handles a BAR, a Browning automatic rifle, and let me tell the audience, those are heavy rifles, and I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you really got to know what you're doing. McQueen must have trained with that or I don't know, used that in the Marines or something himself. I don't think that he was. I think he was in armor, but maybe he was infantry. But the way that he uses that BAR at the end of the film, that is some of the most realistic. How do you say? Stage combat that you're going
Right.
to see because those are heavy weapons and the way that he balances it and uses it fantastic. uh, Again, to the king of cool, people don't realize what authentic actor he was.
Oh no, he was excellent. He was excellent. You know, and of course, you know that he started out as that first movie, the Blob.
That's right, the Blob.
He was
Yeah,
a very young, very. That's. I. And by the way, I see that. I always liked that Blob movie. I know it's kind of like, it's a teenager movie, because back then it was like. But yeah, it was great. You know.
yeah. It's again too. Crying out for a remake, but they would wreck it. But here's something on else too. Now that I think about it, uh, Helen Crump, the character in Andy Griffith's show from Mayberry,
Mm-hmm.
the Don Knotts.
Mm-hmm.
That is the female lead in The Blob. Steve McQueen's girlfriend is
Yes.
Helen Crump. I forgot what her real name is, but you know
Okay.
who I'm talking about, Helen Crump of the TV series.
No. No, I'm
Okay,
drawing.
there's
Let
a
me tell you
and
something. And that was the thing. I don't remember that the girl that played the lead in the Blob. I
yeah,
I
okay,
never
well,
remember seeing her again. She was a pretty girl.
yeah, she was attractive. She was wholesome
Uh
and
huh.
not sexyful, but wholesome, very attractive. And later on, she played opposite of Andy Griffith in the Andy Griffith TV series from Mayberry.
Okay.
And I don't remember what I think she had a French last name. She was an American,
Mm-hmm.
and she that's the Steve McQueen's girlfriend in that movie, The Blob. If you buy that computer, look her on up, see what her name
You
is.
know what part I think is funny though, Alan?
Okay.
In the Blob, there's a part where Steve McQueen and his girlfriend they're in trouble with the law, and they
Mhm.
call their fathers to come to the police station. Both of the fathers show up in a suit and tie, and I'm like, I wonder what the dads for today would show up in. They'd show up in shorts and flip flops, you
Right.
know. And it was like, man, back then, they both showed up with the suit and a tie because that was the norm. Is that, it wasn't like they were like going over the top. This was normal. You know, people didn't walk around like didn't go shopping in their pajamas like they do now.
No, and one of the things about airlines, people would dress
Oh
uh,
yeah.
good to get on an airline. The women would
Sure.
wear dresses, the man would wear at least a blazer or something to be on the plane. And now today, it's Tramp City. You look at stuff. Okay, at best, a lot of these people look like gym rejects. The way that they're dressed and with their floppies and the way that they're well, I shouldn't say floppies, but some type of athletic shoe and just misfitting gym clothes, first class slobs. And yeah, it's completely different. And gosh, up until what, mid '60s, whatever, people used to dress to go to work. And
Oh yeah. My God.
the woman's name is Annetta Corsat. That was
Yes,
the
I'm
name
looking
of
her up. Right,
and
Annetta Corsat. I didn't know. I didn't know she had done something else beyond that. Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Wow. See, that's one of these actresses or actors that you see, and then they're good, and then all of a sudden they fade away, and you're like, what happened?
Well, either they didn't want to go along with the
Yeah, that's what.
system,
Yeah, that's where I'm going with that.
or
Yeah.
they went along with the system, but they said, okay, this is you only got X amount of years, and this is it, and
Yeah.
adios, mujer. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah. That's why. And cutting back to the original thing that we were talking about, Marilyn, and she's hitting 36, and in the Hollywood, especially of those days. Yes, I know that there were actresses that they aged themselves into other roles, but mm, that wasn't always the case. So I don't know. Maybe in other words, I'm thinking maybe they used this as a backdrop as to why she committed suicide, especially if you're going to kill her. That kind of deal, like, hey, she couldn't deal with the fact that she was growing older and maybe wasn't going to get the same exposure, I guess, or whatever.
I
But
don't. I think that she was too much of an icon, and she'd be like Elizabeth Taylor, and she would continue on uh,
but you know what
being.
if how's this? Elizabeth Taylor, well, I think she was beautiful. And she was crazy, but she was beautiful. But and I'm not saying that she wasn't sexy, but I think Marilyn Monroe was her fame was always tied into so much her looks and her sexy, that it was like, okay, you can only carry that so far. Because if you're an old lady going, it's like, oh, come on, I don't know. Elizabeth Taylor, no, Elizabeth Taylor, she was like busy having affairs on movie sets. So yeah, she was one crazy lady. She's beautiful though, but crazy. Um, Let me ask you what was it the other day that I read about some actor, something that they had. I can't remember now. It'll come back to me. Anyway, going back to Hollywood, there was a lot of. As a matter of fact, the other day, and that shows you the difference. Back when Hollywood, I think the silent films were still going out. That when Fatty Arbuckle basically got lost
Career.
his career because supposedly he had did something to Virginia Rapp and killed her. All
Hmm.
right, and that whether it was true or not, some people argued that it was true, some people argued that it wasn't. But just the story that deep sixed his career, and then somewhere along the way, something changed where conduct like that was overlooked. And is it true that a lot of these studios would like basically make sure that no bad press ever came out about their actors?
Yeah, yeah. They had cleanup squads to make sure that their actor did not get bad press, and of course, Hollywood or the Los Angeles Police Department was very corrupt.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the things about the Black Dahlia, about all these different stories about that, and not getting to the truth of following any leads. But yeah, they had. It's $1 million industry, and it's kind of like what the NFL has with ex FBI people working for different NFL teams to keep some of their star players that are loose with the morals or hellraisers, in line to a degree, so they don't get caught with the press that they've done something very very bad. And of course, gosh, Bobby Knight, the coach of Indiana,
Mm-hmm.
he railed against what was going on at UCLA, that they had fixers there too for those great teams. Okay, you come to UCLA, you're going to get some girlfriends, you're going to get some under the table money. Okay, you get this girl pregnant, you're going to get an abortion. We'll pay for it. We'll take care of everything on over here. This is just all you got to do is just give 100% on the court, and we'll take care of the grades, etc. And
Yeah,
Bobby
that's
Knight,
that.
to his credit, ended on up, how do you say, saying his piece, and he was squeaky clean when it came to academics. Now, in other things, he had a temper that he could not control, and other things I don't agree with. But as far as following the rules, he was one of the few that did.
Well, what was it? Is it the NBA, the one that about a month ago they had a big scandal because they had a bunch of people basically throwing games or fixing games or with the
Well, they
mafia? It
said
was like,
it was going to be a card game on that. But
right.
here's the thing about that. Okay, and this was hushed on up a long time ago. Uh, all right, you can say, okay, this player's on the take, and he's going to get X amount of money if
Mm-hmm.
he doesn't do make his shots or whatever else it is. But think about who has the most control in the game. The referee.
Yeah.
And there was this one referee who got caught, and he says, "Okay, I'll make a deal with you, and I'll sing like a canary." And
And there you go.
he said, "No, no, no, you're in trouble. That's it." But a referee, if he's under control, you can he can make a game go differently. And I'll give you an example here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, uh, ladies and gentlemen, once again going and giving hints about my age. Go back to the 1977
Uh-huh.
NCAA game, the semifinal between North Carolina and UNLV. Now, you look at that game, UNLV is just beating North Carolina at the half. They're up by 11 points or something to this effect. And then in the second half, North Carolina gets just a few fouls, and UNLV gets astronomical amount of fouls. In other words, UNLV loses the game by 1 point, and
Right.
UNLV had all these NBA players, some All Stars on their team, and North Carolina, because of how the game was called, won that game. And you say to yourself, you say to yourself, well, Irv Brown, he was the referee. Was he the enforcer for the NCAA because they didn't want UNLV to be in the championship game against Marquette? You look at that game, watch that game, and you got to say to yourself, there's something wrong in that. With the way that the fouls are being called and how many times North Carolina goes to the foul line, I think it's something like North Carolina goes to the foul line like 28 times, and UNLV
Wow.
goes maybe 5 times or something to that effect. Yeah, it's you say to yourself, well, the fix is in on that one there.
Well, I think part of it, and I mean, I didn't go
But
further
let me
with
just
it.
say this. Let me just say this more. And this was on live TV, NBC, and
Wow.
yeah, okay, and it's they're on YouTube somewhere that game. But go ahead, go ahead. I'm sorry, Ann.
No, that they were saying that some of these players that were implicated have multi-million dollar contracts that you're thinking, why would you get involved in this? Why? You don't need the money. You're getting paid very well, beyond well. Like, why would you get involved in any type of scheme to like either throw a game or whatever they're, if you don't need the money, this is not like, hey, I'm hard up and like that's like it's stupid that you look at it why they would get involved in any way, shape, or form in this. All
Well,
right.
when it comes to gambling addiction,
Yeah.
and I've seen that firsthand with some people I know, and some people, one person in particular in my family, uh, it is like alcoholism. It's
Yeah.
but with gambling, it's more like a demonic type of energy that comes on into them that they've got to. the high, and there's
Yeah.
something on in them, and there's also that hollowness in them, and this feeds that lack of soul that they have in them. That's and that demonic energy goes into that space. In other words, they always say that nature abhors a vacant area, and you've got
Mm-hmm.
to have something on in it,
And
and
something
you
wants
say
to
that with
fill it.
religion, etc. Yeah, and that's what you've got with gambling.
Well, I think that yeah, that kind of addiction, because everybody thinks of addiction as something called a process addiction. In other words, like you said, it's not like you're injecting yourself or the drinking of the alcohol, but like you said, the actual what did the gambling part, it 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 gives them the same high, like let's say a person that's using a drug, it gives them the same kind of like a high.
Well,
Yeah.
I'll even go farther than that. I'm going to say that there's some type of entity or some type of energies that enter into that person that likes that type of vibe, or that type of high, that type of energy, be it gambling, be it the taste of alcohol, be it
Mm-hmm.
taste of heroin, heroina, you
Yes.
know, and the thing about that is you can see the difference in them, and sometimes you can even see like, wow, look at their eyes, they've gone non-human, and this is
Right.
before the do the drug or before the uh, do the deed, etc. No, there's more to it than just being physical. There is also a spiritual aspect to addictions, and I think the only ones that touch on that are going to be maybe like what is the 12-step people that you've got to pray to God to
Mm-hmm.
help you with this. It's just not the mental aspect of it.
Sure. Exactly. That. Yeah. And well, part of the 12 step is total abstinence, which is if you know if that's your weakness, you can't. But there's an. I'm going to go real quick into the addiction thing. There's something called reduced harm, which for let's say, which doesn't work by the way, in my opinion. Which is, let's say you've got an alcohol addiction, and they'll say, well, you just have one or two drinks. No, once you're an addict, whatever your addiction is, you got to do the 12 step, which means you cannot partake of whatever your addiction is, period. And that's really, really difficult. Because in other words, for better or worse, that's just part of who you are, and it's very, very difficult to overcome. Regardless of what it is. It is some. It does has to do with the reward centers in your brain and how you've trained them, and it's more complicated than that. But yeah,
Yeah, and
um,
also
go
yeah,
ahead.
I agree. And also with the spiritual aspect of
Oh,
that,
sure.
what does demonic energy want? It wants the destruction of other people. And okay, if you have an alcoholic, you have a gambling
Mm-hmm.
addict, you have somebody who's doing who knows uh,
Sure.
what type of drug. Yeah, that's going to destroy other people in the family.
Oh, yes. It's like a
And
ripple effect.
yeah,
The harm, emotional, financial, everything. It's not that one person isolated. Is
right.
like everybody around them gets affected by it.
Yeah, and one of the things about that, is Robert De Niro. He is so, I don't know, fanatic. He has his grandson overdose, and he
Yes.
still wants open borders. Hey, dummy, open
Yes.
borders. You're bringing on in the fentanyl. You're bringing in
Yes.
all
And you
this
would
stuff
think that
too.
if anybody would change their minds about something like that, it would be to have
Yeah,
the loss of a loved one. That you'd be like, nah, maybe I thought that was a good idea before, but not anymore. Nope. Nope.
yeah, and that's one of the things that we've seen the corruption of a society,
Yes.
and again too, Hollywood television is kind of like okay, the slippery slope of
Mm-hmm.
okay, watch this, and it's going to be propaganda. Like for example, you see the films from the 1930s, from the Third Reich or other types of things, and they're
Right.
preparing them for what's going to happen, for World War II, and the same thing that you're doing with the schools. I remember, and I'm not a fan of Ronald Reagan. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
he was a good actor, but a lot of things I didn't agree with him as far as his presidency. I remember one of his famous sayings, "And our schools are not going to be drug dens." Well, that was really good rhetoric, but you and Nancy didn't do anything about that, and I was beyond high school by then. I mean, I was,
Right.
but I was looking back at, well, the drug culture came into being in the 1960s, pal, and here you are doing something about that, and you're still
Yeah.
not doing anything with to help
Right.
people that are
That
addicts.
that slogan, "Just say no." You remember that?
Oh God, yeah, that would just be that'd be Nancy's. To me, she truly was Dragon Lady, and not the Vietnamese, South Vietnamese Dragon Lady of of Colonel Kai and stuff. But anyway, uh, yeah, she. I doubt that she would spend any time in a rehab place in a halfway house helping people. And one of the things that and I believe very, very strongly with this, and I've had some, uh, well, I'm not going to go into background stories about this, but if you teach people in halfway houses
Mm-hmm.
capitalism and you teach them about how to better yourself in this world, financially, and of course you're doing the spiritual aspect of it too, you can get people turned into a different direction and go that way. And and that's it's very rare that you're going to find anybody who knows anything about capitalism who's going to be teaching at a
Oh,
university
let
or
me tell you
teaching in
something.
high school.
Well, that's one of the things that they're talking about. That are saying, you know what, they should be teaching kids since grade school about capitalism and economics and finance and all this stuff, and they don't. And when I think they do, they should. They should.
Right. And the reason that they're doing that is they just want a bunch of the old cliche word sheeple. You're going to
Mm-hmm.
teach people to follow orders. You're going to
Yes.
teach people to not question things. You're going to teach people that America is terrible, is bad. And okay, we've had our problems. We're the only country in the
Yeah.
world that has tried to address our problems and to right our wrongs.
Sure.
And again, too, if you're working for the man, it's very rare that you're going to get ahead unless you're one of those bloodless types who, and I've seen them, and I'm sure
Oh
you've
yeah.
seen them
I think
too,
everybody's
who
seen
are
them.
going to goes up in the corporate ladder in the business,
Yes.
etc., and they're going to be with the other snakes, and
No,
you see
you
that
know
in
that they've done studies and they have found that all these major corporations, I can't remember what the percentage is, but it's very high. It's above the norm. How's that?
yeah,
Are all have what they call the dark triangle. They have like psychopathic flavors. By this, I'm not saying people think that you're a psychopath, you're killing people. No, but they have this psychopathic behavior and the way they look at people. That there's a very high percentage of CEOs and CFOs that fall into that category, and it's no coincidence. Like you said, all of a sudden these are the ones that are going up the corporate ladder.
right. So if you want to, it's tough, but if you want to make some money, you're going to have to do it on your own. And one of
Mm-hmm.
the great things about this country, it doesn't matter. You can have an eighth grade education, but if you become the best
Yeah.
cement man out there, if you become the
Yes.
best plumber on out there, if you can write your own ticket. You become the best tour guide. You can write your own ticket.
Right.
Hint, hint,
Right.
hint. The assassin speaks. Okay.
Look, here it is. This is I looked it up and it says here, even though they're just saying no, that's not true, but back in 2019 they said one of five business leaders are psychopaths. See?
Yeah.
Okay, or what they call corporate psychopaths.
Yeah.
All right. And yeah, if you've ever worked or been around larger companies, you will have run across more than one of these people. I have. I
Yeah.
have. And so I know they exist. And it's like and it's not like you say, well, there's always that one person who's like nah, I've been around where uh that you're like, how did this person get up? And again, I don't know if they do it or they're helped along. How's that?
Well, some are helped along. Some got the golden hand that picks them on out and said, "Okay, this guy's pliable. This woman's
Mm-hmm.
bendable,
Yeah.
and they'll do what we want, and we'll put them up into power, and we'll just end on up doing what we want, and they'll be giving more negative messages to humanity, to the USA population, and it'll just steer us
Yeah.
on down
Or
the road a little
whatever
bit
they need
farther."
to do, whatever it is. Like,
Yeah.
well, even now, let's go back to like, when they were well, let's not even go to Big Pharma. We can go prior. When they had, the big wars with the cigarette companies, the tobacco companies. You
Uh huh.
remember?
Yeah.
that okay, it was like, hey, we know that this is going to cause cancer. This, the effects of the nicotine, it's drug, it becomes like a habit. There's a physical response to you wanting a cigarette. And to myself, I don't know, maybe it's because I don't know. I would feel if I was one of these top executives that had the decision power, because if not, who cares? I'd be like, man, I'm responsible for people like dying. And they tried to put that off. And by the way, I'm going to say something. I'm a big believer. If you want to smoke, you should have the right to smoke. How's that? You
Yeah.
want to smoke? Be my guest. Go ahead and smoke. But what I don't agree in is that they don't say the truth about what the effects of it are. So if you're going to do it, you know, and that's it. But you know what you're getting into. And I come from, like you were saying, Alan, let me date myself. When I worked in a major corporation, this was back in the 80s, where people smoked at their booths. People smoked in their office. Okay. And then they told them, no, you can only smoke in the break room. In other words, the smokers, they would either be in their booth, you'd see like a little cloud of smoke. And it didn't bother me, by the way, because this was fine. Or they would be at the getting some coffee. Then they told them, no, you got to go to the break room upstairs. Okay, we had these big dividers, the ones that you can roll across like a room. And
Hmm.
they would say, you got to sit on that side. You would open that thing. It was like a big cloud. And then they said, no, this is, of course, a few years later. You got to stand outside. So then you'd see them, the smoking people outside the front door. And then finally they gave them like some little um, tables way on the other side of by the backside of the building. So I saw how this transpired from you could smoke it wherever. You were a smoker, that was it. And everybody just, you dealt with it, you know?
Yeah, yeah. On that note, in los centurias pasado, okay, in the
Mm-hmm.
centuries past, okay,
Yes.
uh, I used to, it's a film noir type of life myself, so I used to enjoy boxing. So I used to go to these matches,
Right.
and it was. They used to call them smokers, and the reason because of all the smoke. So you go on over there. So it doesn't matter where you sit at these
You're gonna get smoke.
in the auditoriums. Yeah, it can be close to ringside or way way on up, close to the ceiling there, and these are the people that would be there would be guys who were women born in 1920, went through World War II, etc.
Mm-hmm.
This is how long ago it was, and now they're adults, and you look on up and you see in the Clegg lights all this smoke,
Yeah.
and no matter where you sit, you get back to your flat, and your clothes, if it's your jacket, whatever, you got to get it washed because it smells like nicotine because you've been
Yes.
to a yeah. But
Yes.
there was I don't know what it was, but there was a yeah, it's bad for your health, etc. But there was something about that environment that I really did like, and I think that there's only been one movie that's ever captured that. How's the crowd of about that's from 1947 or 49 called it's with Robert Ryan and called The Setup, film noir. And again, ladies and gentlemen that are listening to us, check out
Uh-huh.
that movie. You're like, I
Okay.
don't know how we got into Hollywood films tonight,
No,
but
let me tell you
a lot
something.
of
The setup. You know what?
yeah.
I'm into film noir,
Oh,
and
you are okay.
yes, yes, very much so. And I had never heard of that. And maybe I've seen it and I just don't remember the title of it. But sometimes, some of these film noir um, titles are a little bit like generic.
Well, here I tell you what. Okay, Robert Wise is the director. He's the one who directed the Sand Pebbles. Nobody's
Okay.
seen the Sand
Yes.
Pebbles, and you've seen it, and it's a
Yes.
superb film. And that's a microcosm of USA getting into Vietnam right before we got into it full. I mean, we don't understand Asian culture, and we
Mm-hmm.
didn't understand Vietnamese culture. Same thing with McQueen there. Anyway, Robert Wise, he's the director, and he did some really good films and some really bad films. And this is his black and white film noir. It's about a boxer and this one bout, and his they want him to throw it to the fight, and he doesn't want to throw it, and it's 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 very well done. The crowd scene because when you go to the olden days. Gosh, can't believe
Right.
this. Okay, decados pasado. Okay, I mean
Yeah.
mucho decados. Okay, you'd be there and in the crowd, you'd have people roaring when there's contact. You'd always have people sometimes using their hands kind of like as if they're boxing as they're sitting on down. Oh, that try to block a right as they're watching the action, and then you always have a glutton there in the audience who's more hamburgers, more popcorn, whatever.
All right.
Yeah, and that movie captures it.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna plug two of my books because I have a series which is called Film Noir Murders, but these are real life murders that took place, and I base them a lot on, that film noir, that time, where it was the gumshoe and the femme fatale, which was like kind of like
Yeah,
the setup for these film noir um, stories. The women always, they were like kind of like femme fatales, like yeah, they always had some ulterior motive and
yes,
that
the
kind of
Black
deal.
Widow. You
The
better be
Black
careful.
Widow.
Yeah,
What was it?
she'll
The
kill you.
Postman always rings twice. Was that it? Or the
Yeah, that was. But I never liked that one. And that's the one with Garfield and Lana
hmm
Turner. And the great line with Lana Turner is, "What are we going to do?"
yeah.
And
Well,
I
Fred McMurray. He was you later on. You always never thought of him as being a. I don't want to say a serious actor because he was, but that role that he played in that movie.
yes, with Barbara Stanwyck, Double Indemnity.
Mm-hmm.
Oh gosh, that's fantastic. Yeah, he did a fantastic job. The only weak spot in that movie, and everybody's going to disagree with me, is Edward G. Robinson. I thought Edward G. Robinson overacted, and as that little man inside of me that's eating away at me,
But yeah, there was a lot of film noir movies that were really great. That were
Well,
really
yeah, well,
good.
after World War II, you had all these guys who came back home,
Yeah.
and they'd seen all the carnage from the beaches of Tarawa
Mm-hmm.
to fighting in the hedgerows of France, etc., or the hills of Italy, and yeah, so they want to have something a little bit more realistic, and the film noir quenched their thirst.
Right, right, right. It wasn't how's this? Film noir says it all. It wasn't the happily ever after story kind of deal. You
Yeah,
know. So the that was like and let me ask you because we had talked about this the last time, Alan. A lot of people, most people have heard about the Black Dahlia murders. This was like in 47 and stuff like this. Like you
right.
said, post World War II, um, where a lot of people, and I think this is what happened with Elizabeth Short. They would go out to LA to try to make it in the movie industry, and I don't think they were prepared to what would happen if you didn't. In other words, they went out there thinking, "Oh, I'm gonna become an actress or an actor or whatever," and it just then what do you live off of when all of a sudden you're not getting hired or you're not even. And I think that there's a lot of stories like the Black Dahlia or Elizabeth's short story where what happens when you go out there and things don't work out for you.
Right, right, yeah. And I still think that happens a lot even today.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at, okay, you get these, and I'm not going to give any names, but I've known a number of people and females. Okay, you do this, you do that, and you'll get SAG after SAG after for those that are listening. For those that don't know, is
Mm-hmm.
going to be your golden ticket. In other words, you're a professional
Right.
actor, and you will make good money because you're part of the union. And for example, I guess if you just minimum like $350 if you got to roll over a barrel, like you get pretend you get shot, bang, and you go down like that. And anyway, movies that are big budgeted, okay, and you're you get paid well, you get fed well. I mean, it's like once you become SAG-AFTRA, you are like it's like the military. You become an officer. You're no longer an enlisted man. The enlisted
Right.
people have to eat terrible food, and the officers we get steak
Right.
for
Yeah. 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 When
at
you're not, you
lunch,
get bologna
etc.
sandwiches, and then you're eating steak.
Or slop. I mean, spaghetti with wieners or whatever. Yeah,
Okay.
and yeah. So it's a great difference. I don't know. Yeah. So if they'll tempt people to do this, do that, and people are so starved for um, money. No, well, not for money, but for fame,
Well, I
for
think that,
something.
but no way. Don't. I think they go out there with a desire for fame. But what happens when all of a sudden you run out of money? I think that's really puts the boot on the back of their neck when they start doing stuff that maybe they never thought they would do.
Right. Yeah. And say, well, okay, this is all. Well, a woman's got to do what a woman's got to do.
Right.
A fellow's got to do what a fellow's got to do,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll make excuses.
Mm-hmm.
And then once they start doing this, they become more and more corrupt. And
Mm-hmm.
okay, and once that happens, like this one guy told me, and he was Mormon, and he said about people and your soul. And there's some truth to it. It's a triangle, and if you keep on doing all these kind of bad things, then the triangle edges, the points wear off. So now you just have a circle, and the circle is going to constantly be rotating, and you're not going to have any friction of what is right or what is wrong. You're just going to be rotating with the wrong. And
Mm-hmm.
that was a pretty good description of
Yeah.
moviedom television morality with a lot of people.
Well, I think also what happens is that let's say you're brought up in a decent household or with morals, and you go out there. And like you said, after you start doing certain things that you never thought you would, and all of a sudden, then the circle of your friends or your acquaintances, they're the first ones that say, "Oh man, don't worry about it. It's okay. Do that. Do that." In other words, when you have like that inner voice that's saying, "What am I doing? This is not right." When you have people around you that are telling you, "Go with it, man. That's not a big deal." Okay, so whatever. Then I think that's where that's that slippery slope downward,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it gets really bad as it goes. And that's why I'm saying that Elizabeth Short. I mean, unfortunately, she got her fame. I don't think the way she expected,
No,
but
not at all. She did not. She poor girl. And here's something else here too about the satanic aspect of what these people do. And you can say to yourself, well, okay, Alan, you're going too far with this. But all right, look at it this way: from again, too, from Christianity, from Catholicism,
mm-hmm,
Methodist, Baptist, again to abortion. And you say, well, all right, if I do that, is that not um, a sacrifice to the dark one? Of
mm-hmm,
course, the thing about Christianity and Catholicism, Baptists, they're going to say that no matter what you do, if you're truly repentant,
right,
you're okay by God's grace.
right,
You're okay. We're all going to make terrible mistakes, but
sure,
some people do these mistakes, and then they don't have whatever it is that base, and then from there they can say, "Oh, that's okay," like you said, and keep on going down
right,
the road of more and more destruction. So
mm-hmm.
with that, you have a lot of that going on in with actresses and actors, with
Oh yeah,
ending of life, and with uh, um, Elizabeth Short, who was the Black Dahlia,
mm-hmm.
I was thinking to myself, well, who do you know, who you've ever met, who has a tattoo of a black flower on her? I mean, is
Right,
that some type of coven or
right,
satanic symbol?
sure. And by the way, people don't realize back then. I'm not going to say women didn't tattoo, but it was rare. It's not like now.
Right,
Back then,
exactly.
women, that was a rare thing for a woman to be tattooed.
Yeah, well, why don't you tell the audience, or I will, whatever, give the background on Elizabeth Short, and I'll jump in on it.
Well, let me she had gone out there, I think because her dad lived out in LA. Okay. And she had been out there, she was like, what, 22? Or she was, and she had gone out there, she had been out there like maybe like 5 years. So she went out there really, really young. And I think what happened was she was going to move in with her dad. Now, there's something, and I never found out about this, and Alan, you tell me, that supposedly her dad, she had lost touch with him um, like in 1930. In other words, supposedly he had committed suicide. Then he turns out he's alive and he's in LA. I don't know. I don't know that part exactly, how he faked his death. Bottom line, she goes out there to be with him, but that was like a short lived thing. And then she's basically drifting around. And from what I understand, sometimes she was, even the prostituting part of it was, from what I understand, it wasn't even sometimes about money. If she got fed, like if they bought her dinner or lunch or whatever, that was like her her price tag, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
And everybody's always looking like, who was she with? And I'm sure you've heard about this. Oh my God, what's the name of this guy? The one that he wrote the book that he said his dad was the one that killed her.
Yeah,
And
I was gonna say he's in the category of James Patterson, and I disagree with him. Yes,
right. But then it's like everything. It's like even when they kill even prostitutes or anything that they look, and it's like, I'm sorry, but unfortunately, because of the lifestyle she was in, it could have been anybody. You know?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
What do you think?
Not with the way that not the way that she was murdered. That
Oh, no, 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 absolutely not. No, what I'm saying is that it's not like somebody they could say, God, this is her husband or her boyfriend. That's the guy that did it. Unfortunately, she was known here and there, but no, absolutely, what that thing where they bisected her in the Glasgow smile, and they drained her of blood, and the way they posed her in Limerick Park. No, the symbology there, that wasn't your average guy that maybe lost his temper and killed her. No, 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 absolutely not, absolutely not. And I believe as to the motive, um, let me see. She was. Let me. Okay. This is, if we really want to go down the rabbit hole. She disappeared about the first days of January, and I think they found her, or they think she died, like in the middle of January. And there are, if you want to go down the thing of whether it's dark magic, witchcraft, Satanism, that's coming into a time period that they do have sacrifices.
right.
Okay, so if we want to go down that road with it, but what do you think, Alan?
I'm thinking that she was sacrificed there in Hollywood with a satanic ritual,
Mm-hmm.
and that was the end of her. Now she was her father, I think, lived not in Los Angeles, but maybe somewhere like south of San Francisco,
Right, right.
and she was originally from I think it was somewhere in Massachusetts, maybe.
Boston,
Uh,
Boston. I think she was from
okay,
Boston.
yeah, okay. And her father left the family during the Great Depression, and her first boyfriend or love or whatever it was, he got killed in World War II. And I'm doing this by memory. And she's there. She wants to become an actress, and she dresses in black. She has black hair. And again, too, this is the disputed part about where her tattoo was. People say it's a black rose, or there wasn't one, or it was a black dahlia. And they say, well, how did she get this name? And then some people said, well, it was because of the movie The Blue Dahlia. But the
Right,
Blue Dahlia came on out, what, a year after or her death, or etc. It's a William Bendix movie, if I remember correctly, with I think Alan Ladd. Anyway, the and that's quasi film noir for you there, Em. And so she is very, very happy before she disappears, and it's like she's going to get a big break. And I'm thinking to myself, well, you look at her again. This is another idea here, Em. Look at those pictures of her, uh, and in a couple of years, her whole face becomes much more attractive. Now, how is this person going to be able to get that kind of surgery back then? Then it was
no,
astronomical. Who was footing the bill for her? And you take a look at that face. If you're on the computer, of who
Yes.
she was right to her last photos in 1947.
Mm-hmm.
She looks completely different, and I always thought to myself she had that same type of look of Rita Hayworth. If you look at Rita Hayworth, let's
Yes.
say from that movie of Miracle over Broadway versus
Mm-hmm.
what she had later on, she must have had a surgery to her face. This is when she was, Rita Casino before she became Rita Hayworth, or around that time. And I'm thinking to myself, who was Elizabeth Short, the Black Dahlia? Who was she running around with to get this kind of uh, plastic surgery? And if you look at her, and there's some photos on out there, and you know, I wrote about her a zillion years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and profile-wise, whatever, if you just look at her, there's a lot of resemblance to her to Rita Hayworth, and you say to yourself, look at these actresses. Where I'm going with is this: okay, she made some connections. She was maybe in a satanic group. She thought she's using them, but they're going to use her, and then she disappears. She was supposed to meet somebody there at, I think it was the Roosevelt Hotel,
Mm-hmm.
and she gets picked on up in some vehicle, and she's dressed superbly, black what is it, dress, black hat, etc. And then 2 weeks later, they find her in this lot,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of by a fire hydrant. She's been eviscerated. All of
Yes.
her blood has been drained, so it's a very like mannequin white corpse.
Mm-hmm.
The way she was cut in half, that's going to take some tools. She has on the sides of her mouth, like she's been cut
Yeah.
to make it kind of look like a Joker
Yeah.
type of face. And you think to yourself, well, why would they want to do that? And I was thinking to myself, no, it's not something of a madman doing that. Did they run out of time? Were they going to take her jaw, to take her mandible, so that you're not going to have any uh, teeth to be able to identify her by?
Yeah. Which that was
And
very common back then.
okay,
They would forensics. They would match them by the dental.
and then again with her fingers, weren't something were the her fingers now were her fingertips mutilated, or were they just too old and they could not get identification by way of her fingertips? I forgot about that. But anyway, they found that she had been tortured to death. In other words, there was marks on her wrists and on her ankles
Mm-hmm.
where she had been bound and where she had struggled, and I guess why they're just slowly cutting away on her. And she'd been washed, and her hair had been washed, etc. And now that neighborhood, now there's a neighborhood there where they found her body.
Right.
And interestingly, that fire hydrant is still there.
Really.
Yeah, yeah, I'm not going to say where it's at, but I had
Mm-hmm.
a girlfriend who used to live in that area, and I thought to myself,
Wow.
that's really wild that okay, the fire hydrant is still there. And so after that, you have this inquest in the police. The police are as corrupt as the day is long. So you're going to have all these lies about her, and there's no of the heavy duty clues followed on up. Now you think to yourself, where is a woman going to be taken to that you're going to have that kind of equipment to
And
be able to?
yeah, that you're going to be able to insanguinate her, cut her, all this. You
Right,
got to have some type of privacy. It's like,
right, and that's going to take money. And
mm-hmm.
again, too, this is one of these. Some of these satanic group doing this, and she was the sacrifice. And you think to yourself, okay, she's got the tattoo, the black dahlia, the black rose, or whatever you want to, but we're going to say the dahlia, and she didn't even realize that she was marked for extermination. And it's kind of like Michael York with his hand going red in Logan's Run.
Mm-hmm.
That's a bad
Right.
analogy. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Well, they were
So the
anyway, keep going, keep going.
Well, no, go ahead. I was going to
No,
say
that
something else.
they were. I looked up because I know that there's certain dates that, as far as if we're looking at Satanism or devil worship, And let's say because she disappeared on January 7th, in other words, between the time she was taken, because obviously, and then that she was discovered. If you look at the the satanic dates, all right, um, January 7th is called Saint Winable Day, and it's marked by blood rituals involving animal and or human sacrifice and dismemberment. Then you move forward to January 17th. She was found, I think, on the 13th, and it's called the Satanic Revels, which is associated with sexual rituals including oral, anal, and vaginal acts involving females aged 7 to 17. All right. So, and then it keeps going. In other words, um, there's always the timing on, like what you were saying, the sacrifices or things. They do follow a certain timing as far as the significance of it. How's that?
Right, right. Yeah. Um, I okay. I want to stay on this here, but I'm just going to say that depending upon where the homeland, the mother lodge is for the satanic group, be it the Golden Dawn or whatever you want to call it, or
Mm-hmm.
Anton LaVey's, whatever it is, depending on what time element they're going to go on into. Are they going to start their time, there at Greenwich in England, and even though it's one day off or X amount of hours off here in the USA, there, with the Stonehenge or whatever, it's going to be that time, the exact time. So if you're in with that day and a half, or half a day element, what you're talking about, satanic holidays, bingo. It's not by coincidence. It's done on purpose. It all
Sure.
depends upon where they're going to be doing this type of ceremony, etc. And I'll just say this, and then we'll get back to the Black Dahlia on this here.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things about with Mel Nadel, who disappeared in the Santa Fe Triangle, he was disappeared on September the 6th, and September the 7th is going to be one of those satanic holidays, the marriage to the beast, and
Mm-hmm.
that's okay. Depending on when did he disappear? I mean, we're going to say, well, we're going to be using Santa Fe time, or we're going to be using Greenwich time, whatever, for the 7th, on and on, or Tokyo time.
Right.
And when they found Emma Treps's car, she's another woman who disappeared in the Santa Fe Triangle, the Pecos Triangle, I should say. They found it on September the 6th. But interestingly, with Mel Nadel, and I'll get back to the Black Dahlia. I just want to say this part, the kind of
Okay.
eerie type of thing here. Okay, and I had this one guy from France who did a documentary, and they're really into Nostradamus, putting the B to D, to say that Nostradamus, predicted Saddam, on and on, all this type of Hitler, the way that one letter can change everything over here, two letters. Um, Mel Nadel disappears on September the 6th,
Okay.
'09. Okay, so you got 699. You reverse it, you got 996. You just put one number on up, and you got 666. You follow
Exactly.
what I'm saying?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
You say to yourself, oh, what kind of coincidence is that? And then on something on else, when I've been on up there and doing investigations, one time I had my cell phone just go bonkers and it broke on me. And guess what? Who was calling me on my cell phone? The number 666 or the number 999. Nobody was on the line, but it just kept on going back and forth on that.
Really?
So there,
Wow.
yeah. So there is something to this type of thing about the power that these people try to invoke. But let's get back to the Black Dahlia on that, because I just had to throw that on because I'd lose my line of thought. Go ahead.
Well, no, because this is the thing. You know that there was a big tie-in, like around, I want to say 1941, where the Aleister Crowley, they set up the OTO, or the Ordo Templi Orientis, in
Yes.
Pasadena. All right, that's where this guy Parsons and L. Ron Hubbard and all of them, they got all mixed up in this, in following his teachings. The Thelema and all that stuff. Um, so as far as the California connection, as far as I'm not gonna, a lot of people think that that was the founding, not all of it, but some of it in that area of California
Right.
came came from that. So,
Yeah. Yeah, right. And before that, they were doing other types of things, but Thelema, and yeah, it's and I've had people on my tour. Uh, and when you try to, they'll ask you questions, but when you try to get them to, they'll avoid it. And it's interesting just how um, how diligent they are
Mm.
in if you're gonna if somebody was gonna grill them, they would break the interrogator. Don't give them any water, put the spotlight on them, and there's
Make them
yeah,
sweat.
it's amazing how well sold these people are on the black arts.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
They were
and
they the as a matter of fact, like in 1942, that L. Ron Hubbard and all these, they were like, they established something called the Agape Lodge. And you know what? I think to most normies, Alan, you hear these stories and you're like, who's gonna do that? But it's almost like you kind of like are unaware because you just don't think you wouldn't do it like nobody else would. That there's a lot of people that are dark and perverse and they just pretend to be normal, but
right,
they're not.
yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
and one of the things about Thelema, and this is what I've now how true this is, but you think about, the power that guy was able to invoke.
Mm-hmm.
Supposedly, one of the visitors to that lodge
Right.
was John Carradine. Or well,
Yes.
Carradine Senior. That would be John Carradine,
Right. The
not Robert
tall.
Carradine.
Yeah. The
Yes,
dad. Yes.
yes, yes, and he was an excellent actor. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, there was that guy had a power to him when he
Yes.
wanted to play sinister characters, and it wasn't just because he was alcoholic, but he was channeling something. And also with Thelema, think about Baphomet, and that's one of the
Yes.
most, probably saying it the wrong way, it's one of the most powerful demons that there is there. And you look at um, Madonna, the way that she's always posing in Baphomet poses. This is
Yeah.
the goat demon that,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, uh, both sexes.
Right. Right. That exactly. Yes. That hermaphroditic type of look. That,
Yes.
yeah. Exactly. Or androgyny. Yes.
Hmm.
Absolutely. And
And
I think Jack Parsons and L. Ron Hubbard. That one time they tried to summon what they called the goddess Babylon. Right.
right.
And they were doing the chanting and the rituals. Supposedly, the idea behind it was that this goddess, all right, was supposed to birth the Antichrist. And I'm thinking to myself, what are these guys doing? What are they? I don't know. I I, I don't know. You look at it and you hear about these stories and you're like, and then what's incredible is that L. Ron Hubbard goes off and establishes Scientology.
Yes.
Which is that's a whole other story right there as far as what they do.
Well, Ron, okay, uh, the summoning, some of the stuff that they did was out in the desert, and
Hmm.
then later on, where in these areas, it's like as if they open up a portal or a portal exists, and they're told to go
Yes.
to this. In this area, it can be a portal to another solar system, and it can be a
Hmm.
combination also to another dimension, and you also
Right.
have ghost activity around it, and that's he's getting this information. You say he was plugged on in. Who gave him this information for
Right.
uh, the propulsion systems uh, that um,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Jack Parsons was in the middle of all of this rocket science thing going on. Yeah.
right. And the thing about Jack Parsons is then you look at what happened with NASA later on,
Hmm.
and you look at the different types of names. With a classic example, Saturn. Okay, Saturn rocket. This is for the youngsters on out there. The Saturn rocket was what was used as the uh, thruster to get the Apollo uh, capsules out of orbit to the moon.
Right.
And Saturn, that is going to be, well, go
Yes.
into Roman or
Saturnalia.
paganism. Yes,
Hmm.
deities or that is going to be hell.
Yes.
Uh, the Saturn, Hell, the planet Hell, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And you have all these other types of names that are associated with it. And then Jack Parsons uh, ends on up. They say that he immolated himself. Well, I maybe, but maybe he was murdered, and
Yeah.
that was in Pasadena at his place, and that was a big cover on up. What would Jack Parsons? What was he going to um, tell the public? And here's something on else here too about Ron L. Hubbard. And this is synchronicity. Uh, Ron L. Hubbard's military career has been covered on up tremendously. And one of the stories about Ron L. Hubbard was that he was on one of these ships that sunk with all. He was like the only survivor, and that's going to be the USS Edsall. Like Edsall, but
Mm-hmm.
Edsall. Maybe I'm saying it the wrong way, pronouncing it
Mm-hmm.
because I got a twang. Um, and he was able to swim to an island, and he survived this. And this ship was commanded by a junior officer. His name was Nix. This is during World War II, and show you. And this is just a tidbit about this: that
Right.
the Japanese had so much respect for this ship that was uh, fighting against a whole squadron, just one ship, that they called it the dancing mouse because it
Okay.
was the way it was zigzagging to
Mm-hmm.
not get hit. It was under air attack, under battleship cruiser attack, etc. Here, yeah. So anyway, getting back to Parsons and Ron L. Hubbard. Yeah, they were channeling all kinds of stuff, and uh, yeah, it's you got to a lot of the stuff that has been I would say negated about their
Mm-hmm.
true backgrounds.
Hi, everybody. This is Marlene with Stories of the Supernatural, and this is the end of part one of Morbid Tales, an interview with Allan Pacheco. This was a very lengthy interview, very interesting but lengthy. So I decided to chop it up into two parts, and part two will follow within the next 72 hours. So till then, thank you for being part of my audience.